It is our pleasure to introduce you to the Executive Director of Action PAC Inc., Ms. Laura Dakanai.
And good morning. I want to thank you all for joining us to attend our launch as we introduce our Action PAC Inc. Thank you for attending our virtual press conference. I am Laura Dakanai, and I am the Executive Director of Action PAC Inc. You may know me as a banker, as an advocate for small business, and as a small business owner for more than 30 years. I am a local girl. These are my roots. My mom is Chamorro, and I've grown up here almost my entire life. My grandparents are Familia Tet and Familia Lucas. This is my home and the island that I love. And like you, many of you, my company and my employees, we have been impacted by the economic situation as a result of the lockdown, as this pandemic and this virus continues to ravage our island. You see, my business is considered a non-essential business, and as a result, our employees had to be furloughed. Just like many of our local residents who work in our local hotels, restaurants, bars, beauty salons, and other businesses that have either been forced to close their doors or operate at reduced capacity. And possibly furlough and maybe even lay off employees. And while the federal government has provided disaster relief funding for both business and our government in the initial stages of the pandemic, the financial havoc that's been wreaked upon our local residents and our businesses has been substantial. 2 days ago, the governor was talking about our 2019 audit for the government. And when she was asked the question, what would the income look like this year as compared to last year? She actually said she expected it to be pretty much the same. But I can tell you as a business owner, 3 months with no income means no taxes are paid to the government. And there are many businesses like my business. And then there are employees who aren't working, who aren't earning income and aren't paying taxes into the government. So with this reduced revenue to the government, I think all of us are going to be in for some financial crunch in the near future. So at this time, we are at some crossroads to make some very, very important decisions that are going to affect the future and the destiny of our island community. With an election coming up in November, it is important that we ensure that we elect the right leaders who understand the needs of our island and business community that employs almost 80% of our entire workforce on Guam. This is important because without the right leadership at this crucial time, many of our businesses could fail. Some of them have already closed from the first shutdown. This is an economic disaster in the making for our small island community. And we need elected leaders who will help us, help businesses recover and survive and reemploy our workforce to its fullest capacity. That is why I am happy to be able to participate in the genesis of what is going to be certainly an important and positive movement in our island community. Action PAC Inc. will be comprised of a cross-section of our island community, local residents, partnership organizations, and businesses coming together with a common goal in mind to improve the way of life for everybody who calls Guam home. We are all registered voters of all ages, all backgrounds, and we believe in taking an active role in supporting and electing the right leadership in our government. Our partner organizations include the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, the Guam Association of Realtors, the Guam Chamber of Commerce, the Guam Contractors Association, the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, the Guam's Women's Chamber of Commerce, and the Korean Chamber of Commerce, along with business owners, managers, and workers representing all of Guam's industries, working together for a common goal. Together, working for this goal, we can unite our community for the common good and seek for positive changes. Action PAC Inc. will be that force for positive change. And to further explain and share the current situation on our island, and the importance of our PAC, I'd like to introduce our chairperson, Christine Belletto. Christine?
Thank you, Laura. Hapaday and good morning. Our island is in the midst of dealing with the worst health and economic crisis in our modern history. Our community has pulled together and has been torn apart by this pandemic, which has affected every single Guamanian in one way or another. In this time of crisis, our political leadership is counted on to make and be accountable for decisions that benefit our entire island. As we plan for the upcoming election in November, our goal is to create awareness for issues and support candidates that will have the most impact on improving the quality of life for all of us. Action PAC Inc. was formed to bring together a group of concerned constituents, nonprofit organizations, and private business entities that believe that its citizens should have a stronger voice in shaping Guam's political and economic future. We strive for a nonpartisan government that welcomes active participation and dialogue with its constituents who can play a constructive role in shaping the local economy and helping to improve the overall quality of life on Guam. This open dialogue is not just about being during the election year, but throughout the political term of the candidate. This group is not about dividing our people to an us versus them, nor is it about private versus the government sector. It's about all of us who live and work here and who want to see Guam recover from this crisis and to push initiatives that will contribute to improving our island community. We are driven to affect change through our strength in numbers as a voting group, using our ability to rally support for candidates who will fight for the interests of our island people as a whole. Action PAC Inc. is made up of members of a cross-section of Guam society. We represent all walks of life and are united in our belief that we can affect change through action. We are an inclusive group that believes in respectful, professional, and a methodical approach to vetting candidates and supporting those who can stand behind causes that matter to most of us. We believe the time for change in our government is now, and electing the right candidates will give our island a better chance at recovering, rebuilding, and becoming more fiscally responsible to the people of Guam. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope that you will join us to take action. Thank you.
We'll discuss the 5 initiatives of our PAC. George Chu, Vice Chairman.
To have a stronger voice in shaping our economic and political future. I've always been a strong believer that if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. But many people have always claimed that why would my one vote make a difference? Well, with Action PAC, we will have one collective voice. So it won't be your one vote, but it will be a collective voice, and we'll be able to be heard by voting together as a block. That's something that we haven't done in the community, especially in the business community, and that's something that we're looking forward to through Action PAC Inc. So what areas are we going to focus on? The first thing that we want to look at is to right-size the government. By right-sizing, people always talk about, oh, government is too big, government is too small, or whatever. We want to have the right size for the government. I believe our government currently has a annual budget close to $1 billion. Is that the right size? Is that too large? Is that sufficient to be able to provide what we, the public, need for the government to provide with us, which I feel is safety, health, education, and welfare? Is the budget the correct amount? The other area that I look for in the government is support. The government should be a support function. It should make everything easier for the people. We want them to cut through the red tape. If anybody's that try to renew their driver's license, they're trying to get a building permit, you know the process that you have to go through can be very complicated, and we want to make the process a supportive process from the government. Finally, we've been talking a lot about how do we right size, and the government has also been bringing this up, which is like consider the private and public sector collaboration. I think that's an area that we should take a strong look at to see how we can cut down on all our expenses in running the government and having the private sector get involved to make things run like a business and run more smoothly and more efficiently. The second area is transparency. We always want to have a transparent government so that we can have improved communications and collaboration. We want to have accountability. We want our elected officials to be accountable for what they do. We want to understand why decisions are made. You know, we're not a 5-year-old kid anymore. It's okay to ask why. So we want to ask why, and we want to have the transparency will allow us to have input and understand why decisions are being made. The third area we're talking about is a very polarizing area. We call it the support for military buildup. But in reality, it's really economic diversity. We can't rely only on one industry in Guam. We've been very, very lucky in the past few years with our tourism economy. The pandemic has showed us that with tourism economy, it's basically come to a standstill. We're very fortunate right now, despite the polarizing factor, that we have the military here. The military has provided a lot of contract work that allowed this economy to continue to move forward despite having no tourism at all, and pretty much in 2020, and we don't even know when it will rebound back. But aside from the military buildup, we were pushing for economic diversity in other areas. The more you can have, the better off Guam will be. So we have the military, we have tourism that we're trying to get rebooted again, and then any other industry that we can think that will help the economy of Guam and make this a better community to live in. The fourth area that we're talking about is a part-time legislature. I don't know if you remember a few years back, a certain party didn't have to have a primary because we couldn't find enough candidates to fill up the slate to run. So what does that mean? That means, there's probably a lot of qualified people out there who could run for the legislature if it wasn't a full-time job. And we should welcome these people to provide additional input. The more the merrier. The more people that we can have, more candidates that we have that are able to run for our legislature, the better off Guam will be. A part-time legislature not only allows for a wider amount of candidates to be able to run and provide more various ideas, but also will reduce costs. Finally, the fifth area we're talking about is taxes. I know this is another polarizing area. The community is going to say, the business community always wants lower taxes. But the truth of the matter is the federal government will keep interest rates as is, or lower interest rates in order to drive the economy. Raising taxes is just not the way to do something if you want to drive the economy forward. So when I say taxes, right now the key driving point, the most polarizing one is the BGRT, or the business privilege taxes, the GRT, whatever you want to call it. Bottom line is, we want the economy to move forward. We should be doing what the feds do with interest rates. Taxes are like interest rates. So you don't want to raise taxes when the economy is bad. You want to keep them the same, or you want to lower them. And as a matter of fact, the BGRT is also another classic example of a hidden tax. People are thinking, the businesses want us to lower the tax so that we can make more money. But in reality, the ultimate person that pays for this business tax is going to be the consumer. Businesses are not going to eat that difference when the taxes go up. They're going to find some way to ultimately pass it on to the consumer. That's you and me. We go to the stores, whatever we buy, it's a hidden sales tax. When you buy something in the States, when there's a sales tax, you see the price tag of something, let's say it's $10 and the tax is 5%. You end up paying $10 and $10.50 is what you end up paying. In Guam, when you see the price tag is $10, there's a hidden tax in there. So the tax itself really is something that the business will account for. So when those tax goes up, ultimately the consumer is going to end up paying for it. The bottom line is taxes and increasing taxes and when the economy is down is just not the right way to incentivize businesses and everybody else to help drive the economy forward. In conclusion, really, it's not us versus them. We have one voice, one collective voice. This is not a us versus them situation. It's a we. We need to work together to collaborate, to improve transparency, to just make Guam a better community for all of us to live in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Our partner organizations stand with us today to unite and pledge their support for the PAC. We are joined today for our digital press conference by the following organizations: the Chinese Chamber of Commerce. The Chinese Chamber of Commerce was formed in 1993 and it is led by George Chu, their president, and they have 106 members. The Guam Association of Realtors, they were established in 1970 and they're led by their president, Peggy Aurelio, and their chairperson of the board, Claire Delgado, and they have over 500 members. Also, the Guam Chamber of Commerce, established in 1924, led by the president, Catherine Castro, and chairperson of the board, Christine Belletto. The Guam Chamber has over 400 members and represents over 40,000 employees on Guam. The Guam Contractors Association also joins with us. And they were established in 1959, and they're led by their president, James Martinez, and their chairperson of the board, Jessica Barrett, and they have over 480 members. We are also joined by the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, established in 1972. They're led by their president, Mary Rhodes, with over 300 members and over 20,000 employees represented. We also have the Guam's Women's Chamber of Commerce, established in 2013 and led by their president, Holly Rustick, with over 200 members and 4,000 employees represented. And the Korean Chamber of Commerce, established in 2018 and led by Andrew Park, the president. The Korean Chamber of Commerce has over 40 members. All of these organizations stand in support of Action PAC Inc. Our partner organizations are all united in supporting our PAC, and we will be vetting candidates that support these initiatives, the 5 initiatives that we're looking for the betterment of our island community. We will be pushing the 5 initiatives and doing our part to ensure that our businesses and our government can work together in building and recovering our economy, restoring our island businesses and our residents, helping them recover, helping both small and big businesses survive, because survival is critical in the long run for our island community and the workforce. We want our workforce also to be able to recover and survive so that we can continue to live in the beautiful island that we all call home. I encourage everybody to join and help make a difference. How can you join? Visit our website, actionpacguam.com. Sign up to become a member. You can also follow us on Facebook, Action PAC Inc. Guam, or on Twitter and Instagram, Action PAC Guam Inc. We encourage you to get involved. If you'd like to find out more on how you can get involved, please email us. Our email address is takeactionguam@gmail.com. That's takeactionguam@gmail.com. Please help us. We encourage you. The time is now. It's a pivotal time for our island. We need to do our part to ensure that we can do what we can. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to the media for questions. Please remember to state your name, the question, and who you'd like it to be directed to. First, we'll ask the Guam Daily Post. Anybody from Guam Daily Post? I don't hear any questions.
Hi, good morning.
Oh, hello. Good morning.
So, who are the candidates that the Political Action Committee endorsed? Who are
We are
these
currently, hi Heidi. We're currently in the process of going to be vetting the candidates. So right now we have not put out a list of the candidates that we're endorsing. So that our group is going to be vetting through the candidates. We'll be polling them and finding out how they feel about the different initiatives and things that are going on in our island. And then we would make our vetting from there.
The vetting, does that include screening whether these candidates support all of the initiatives of Action PAC?
That is correct.
And how soon will you be able to present this candidate?
Well, this is our initial launch, so we're going to be working through this very diligently, guaranteed before the general election.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. KUAM?
Hi, Laura. This is Nestor. Can you hear me?
Hey, Nestor.
How are you doing?
Good.
Hello to Christina and George, too. So, is the Action PAC affiliated with a specific political party? Is there a specific political affiliation?
There's no political affiliation. We are completely independent cross-section of the business community, organizations, and private sector individuals, workers who just want to do what's best for the island. So we're not looking at any particular candidate in any particular party.
Okay, and so, sorry. So as I look through your goals here, so the first four seem more aspirational in that it will, meaning it will take more time and research, I suppose, to achieve those goals. But the fifth one, rollback of the BPT, and even it states that it can be done immediately. Is that the focus at this particular point, rolling back the BPT from 5% to 4%?
Hi, Nestor. So ideally, we want these candidates who are going to be elected in the upcoming November election and will serve for 2 years. We want to poll all the candidates and support those that are going to support the entire platform. Obviously, as you mentioned, the BPT is the more immediate one that can be taken when these candidates get into office, but we certainly like to see that all of those that are elected work with us and work with the community to push the entire platform. Decreasing the size of government doesn't necessarily mean furloughing or removing employees. We believe that there's opportunities with technology to streamline and make the government efficient, instead of hiring more people, have that technology serve as a catalyst for saving those current employees who have the institutional knowledge, who are the subject matter experts, be taken away from just doing the day-to-day, in which things like applying for a business license, submitting business plans, and so forth, do online, and then these agencies can come and review it. So, we have a lot of ideas on how we can streamline the government, how we can improve transparency, and we want to be able to have open dialogue with these candidates and hopefully with the elected senators to effectuate that change.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that, businesses are hurting and that a rollback of the BPT would certainly help them. That's effectively a 20% reduction in their tax. But the argument from the government side has always been that they need that extra revenue because of the Trump tax cuts in order to provide the services that they are supposed to provide. And the only way that you're going to decrease the government, because there is no will really, is to lay off employees. So how do you respond to that?
Well, as you've seen, Nestor, with the recent news, the additional funding that was provided with the 1% increase was used to pay down a deficit, was extra money above and beyond the operational needs of the government. And that's the only way you can pay on a deficit. Right now, many private sector businesses are not just in a deficit, but are closing their doors. So, the temporary rollback, if that's what's needed to get us through this period so that we can continue to have strong businesses who are employing people who are paying taxes to support the everyday collections of withholding tax and GRT should be of paramount importance. At 5%, the more businesses that close down, the less that revenue is going to be for the government. So, we're requesting for a shift in focus to allow our business community to recover from this economic crisis and to allow them to bring back their employees and get people working. Come December, it's unknown whether this pandemic, unemployment assistance is going to continue to be able to help our people. And we're very concerned about how people are going to support their families and feed their families after that runs out. And so, again, we want to work together with the governor. We want to work together with the legislature, and we want people in the legislature that are intent on helping us to rebuild.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that temporary rollback? Because 4% of zero is the same as 5% of 0% if businesses close.
Well, I mean, obviously, as a business community, it was very hurtful with that 1% increase. It actually translates to a 25% increase in operations. We would like to see that permanently rolled back, but if we're going to talk about a give and take and working together, at least initially, let's get this thing rolled back. This is an economic crisis, and we need the government's assistance to help our private sector recover from this crisis. And that private sector includes the visitor industry, it includes the hotels, it includes the restaurants that are in Tumon, and it includes the jet ski operators. So from big businesses to small businesses, they all need help. We need help from our government to give our businesses a break, to bring back our employees.
And how long would you propose that this temporary rollback can be for?
If they're saying that recovery is going to take 2 years, it should be 2 years. If it takes longer, then we need to partner up and we need to work together to decide what's the best. But again, if our government can become more efficient and this could be a permanent rollback, that's the ideal situation. And if we can't have that for now, then at least in the interim until the economy recovers.
You're the current chairperson of the Chamber of Commerce. Is this something that you presented to political leaders already, or?
Actually, no, Nestor. It's been something that we've been very public about, and that we've requested not only of our governor but of the legislature. It has not been met with much support for the very reasons you cited. So we're hoping, as a political action group and a united voice with all the member organizations, that our voices will be heard and that we can have candidates that are in the legislature that help support those initiatives.
Okay, I might have some other questions, but I'll defer to my colleagues. I didn't want to monopolize the time. So,
thank you, Nestor. Marian's Business Journal, do we have a representative?
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. So I just have a few questions. I wanted to know how much money Action PAC has raised and how long the organization intends to last in pursuit of its initiatives.
Okay. I know that we're still getting contributions from our partner organizations. I don't have that figure with me right now, but our committee is intended for this election and for the long haul on what we need to do to get our businesses back on its feet and our island back on its feet. So this is not just a short term, just to get this done and over with. We're here for the businesses. We're here for the island community. You know, we're in this together.
Right. And as we mentioned earlier as well, I mean, we've already gotten substantial contributions from our member organizations, but it's not about just the organizations. We're open to individual businesses. We're open to everyday people out there that want to get involved. There's no contribution too small. You know, we're happy to accept anything that will help us in our public awareness campaign and in our efforts to poll our candidates, get their views on things, and then disseminate that information so that when people go out to vote, they vote for candidates that support the things that they believe in and who are truly focused on helping our entire island.
Okay. And how, in terms of the core initiatives, do you intend to decrease the size of the local government and have a part-time legislature? Because from my understanding, those are pretty lofty, long-haul goals to have.
You know, this is George. I'll answer that question. I mean, as in any organization, as Laura and our Laura has mentioned and Christine mentioned, we're in this for the long haul. Okay, and when you say lofty aspirations, I mean, you have to set a target, and the target always has to be something that's up there. You don't want to set a target too easy to be achieved. But when we're saying we need to have the right structure, the structure has to be correct before you can have the process. So people always say, which comes first, structure or process? Well, if you don't have the right structure, you're never going to have the right process. So the first step that we really feel that need to have is basically right size the government and then the part-time legislature. So if you have the right structure, then everything will flow. And that's what we envision. Is this something that's going to happen overnight? I don't think so. But is this something that we're committed to? The Action PAC is just the Action PAC, the PAC laws in Guam are a little bit different from the United States. The Action PAC itself can be looked at as just another candidate. So you have the same restrictions in donating to a PAC as if you were to an individual candidate. So we basically are putting ourselves out there as a candidate that will represent all of Guam, all the people of Guam. We're not just talking about businesses, but we're talking about individual or employees, everyone that wants to see a way to effectuate change in Guam. So Action PAC in itself is not just for this upcoming election in November. It's not for the next election coming up 2 years from now. We hope that this Action PAC is going to be here and be a constant candidate that's not really running for office per se, but out there to try to effectuate change. And I think I saw the comment from Thomas Hertzlet that he's saying one of the most important action once established is accountability and responsibility of the elected officials sticking to their promises. Well, this is something that Action PAC will be reviewing to see these candidates that we support, are they really owning up to what they said during the campaign trail? So this is something that I feel is very important. And this is a comment from somebody out in the audience that just wrote and typed up this question. Are they really going to hold up and keep their promises? So Action PAC, in a sense, is a candidate, but it's a candidate that's not running for office. So it's a candidate that has no obligation to anybody other than to make sure people do what they say they're going to do when they're on the campaign trail.
Okay. And so in talking about the part-time legislature, is there any intention of having that up on a ballot or any other ballot initiatives? Or is that your no?
Well, I think that's the ultimate goal. Unless we can get candidates in the legislature that would agree to pass the law, that would change the structure of the legislature. So, I guess our first course of action is to attend to the immediate election coming up in November. And then with respect to the other initiatives, to work with the legislature to on the other platforms that we have, the other initiatives that we have, and if need be, and it's not something that we can accomplish to the legislature, we do have the public referendum that we can fall back on. So, like George said, we're in this for the long haul. People talk about how they want the government change or how they want these things changed, but nobody's ever stepped up to actually take action and to make it happen, and we're here to do that.
Okay. My final question would be, in light of the Action PAC wanting government transparency, will the organization regularly brief the media?
We will have all of our updates. We're going to be very transparent with our updates on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and I know that we can work with our group to get out media updates as well. We're open to talk to the media at any time.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you. As a reminder, can we introduce ourselves also and who the panelists you wanted the question to be directed to? Pacific Daily News. Are there any questions from the PDN? John, I still got Rihanna.
There is a question. She's obviously having a little difficulty. There's a question from Ann Wen from the PDN. I'm going to go ahead and read it.
Okay.
I'm from the PDN. My question: how will different chambers work to improve voter registration and ensure their members vote for PAC-supported candidates? Christine, do you want to take that question?
Certainly. That's why we are so excited that we have all of our partner organizations joining us in this initiative. Once we vet through the candidates and we establish the candidates that we are supporting, we will work through all our member organizations and their membership to get the word out. So there's two ways that we're going to disseminate information from the group. It's through our website, through our Twitter, Facebook platforms, our social media platforms, and through our member organizations as they communicate out to their membership. And certainly, as needed, we will also be issuing press releases as we feel is appropriate so that we keep the media informed of our activities as well.
Yeah, and in the past, the Chamber and I believe the other partner organizations, we also go through the process of registering voters within our membership. So that is something that we would also actively do in the organization groups.
As well as encouraging them to vote.
Yes.
For sure.
Are there any other questions? Anne, sorry, your audio is not working.
No, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pacific Island Times. Pacific News Center. No questions from Pacific News Center? Guam Daily Post.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
This is Heidi again. I know Mr. George Chu touched on this, but I want to ask him again, Mr. George Chu.
Okay.
Sir, so in light of the standstill in the 1.8 billion tourism industry, do you think a 950 million budget is realistic? And if not, what do you think should be the figure? What should be the budget?
That's a very good question. Obviously, with one of our main economic drivers in Guam at a standstill, having such a large budget, that's why we're talking about right-sizing it. We know for sure the government needs to provide the basic essential services for safety, health, education, and welfare. What is the right size? Unfortunately, I'm not privy to the workings of the government, and this is something where the transparency issue comes in. We'd like to be able to work together with the government and collaborate between the public and private sector to come to that number. How much is that number? I can give you an example. The CNMI with a population of 50,000, which is roughly 1/3 of Guam, at one of its worst economic conditions, former Governor Ben Fitio had to work with a budget of $112 million. Okay, their current budget is probably up to I don't know what their current budget was, but during the worst economic time, their budget went down as low as $112 million. So what's the right amount for Guam? Is it 1/2? Is it 2/3? I don't have that figure off the top of my head, but definitely, we can't proceed under the assumption that we're going to recover all of our, be able to maintain a budget. I think we have a close budget right now, close to about $900 million. Is that realistic? Personally, I don't know, but I also don't think so. From a logic of just from guessing, when your main economic driver, tourism, is at a standstill, like you said. Fortunately, we have the military to make up for some of that shortfall. And again, it just goes to point out that we need to have more than one economic driver for Guam, and we need to continue to work together between the public and private sector to collaborate to find how we're going to increase our revenue stream and when we have these type of extraordinary situations. I hope I answered your questions.
Thank you. I have a second question for either Ms. Laura Dacanay or Ms. Christine Baleto. Just to clarify, will you be endorsing only senators and a delegate candidate, or will you also be endorsing candidates for mayors and vice mayors?
At the current time, we're just looking at the senatorial candidates, because the initiatives that we would like to see championed really need the support of the legislative body first and foremost. And so at the current time, it's just to focus on the legislative candidates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there
Yes,
any
hi.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, hi, Laura. It's Nestor again. Just wanted to get some clarification. So, did I hear you say earlier, either you or Christine, I think it was, that if they do not endorse, if they do not agree to all 5 of your key issues that are listed, that you would not endorse them? That they would have to basically agree to all 5 in order to get your endorsement?
That's not ideal. Obviously, if we can't get a consensus on all the 5 initiatives that we would like them to endorse, then we would have to go back to our members, to our partner organizations, and discuss, any changes to that. So, it's a collective group, and a lot of what's going on and how we're looking at supporting candidates and on what platforms are important to us as a group is from the collaboration and the discussions and dialogue with our member organizations. So currently, these 5 initiatives was something that we all agreed to and we voted on. As we go through the process of vetting our candidates, then we can determine if we can get that support, and if we can't get the support for all 5 of them, then again we'd have to go back to our members.
And from the candidate's perspective, what does your endorsement entail? I mean, how does that translates into votes? How many votes are you going to promise the candidate, in other words?
Well, as Laura outlined in the beginning, each of our member organizations represents many different business entities who represent many different employees. And so through that membership and, talking with our members, sending out information and getting that to the voting employees that work for them, we represent thousands of employees on Guam collectively. And so we believe that through that partnership and through that communication with our members and employees, that we will be able to unify the votes in support of the candidates that we endorse.
And has there been any discussion of running your own candidates, particularly if down the road you're able to find support for a part-time legislature?
Not at this current time. I mean, I think that from our perspective and our members' perspective, would like to see a cross-section of our community, whether that's nurses, plumbers, electricians, business members, former teachers. We would like to see a cross-section in that legislature that, again, represents our entire island and the interests of our entire island and making Guam better for everyone. We're not looking for candidates internally or endorsing anyone within. Those that have decided to run on their own, that's who we're going to go and talk to and, ask their opinion on these things that are important to the group and see what they support and what they don't support.
And just one more time, if the governor or the legislature or political leadership is inclined to do a rollback temporarily, what would your suggestions be to make up for that loss in government revenue?
Repeat that again, Mr.
Yeah. So, you're.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I understand your question. So, again, what I talked about earlier and what has been reported in the media is the additional 45 million or 35 million was used to pay down a deficit. So that tells us that operations with GRT collections or general fund collections was able to cover the operational budget of those of the legislature, of the judiciary, of the executive branch. Therefore, what we're asking is a temporary rollback or a permanent rollback, depending on how long it takes us to recover, so that the focus is on using that additional funding not to pay on a deficit, but to help support our private sector community in rebuilding and recovering from this economic crisis. I used the example in private businesses. If you have extra funds to pay down your, principal or extra interest on your loan or whatever the case may be, that tells you that you have sufficient cash flow to cover more than just your operations. Right now, in this economic crisis, we're asking the government to cover your operations and, to allow that extra funding to go back to the community through a rollback of the GRT. Relieve the burden on our private sector businesses so that they can, recover, they can bring their employees back, and we can get Guam working again.
And last question, do you think you have the support of the public? Because public sentiment really is what's going to drive the political leaders. We know that because especially we're in an election season. So do you think the general public supports your initiatives? And if not, do you need to convince them of that, and how would you?
Yeah, hi, Nestor. I'd like to answer that. That's part of the goal of the PAC is this public education campaign that we're going to be working on as we move towards the election and trying to bring about all of this positive change. Just so that we can get in the buy-in of all of the residents, the employees that work for the businesses. They've all been affected. The government has a lockdown, but I don't believe the government employees, and I'm not against the government employees. I'm happy that they're financially able to meet their obligations, but they are, I know families that have members that work in the government and in the business community. And those families are very impacted because their household income has shrunk substantially. And so we're looking out for the individuals. As a business owner, I can tell you that we had employees, that we furloughed. And as a business owner, we're not the bad guys. We've taken care of our employees as best that we could. We had employees who were homeless, and we housed them for the 2 months of the last lockdown. Okay, but we don't brag about these things. But these are the things that the business community needs to do to bring the island together. And we need the government to help us survive. That's what we're talking about. Okay, we'd like to go on to the community question. Sorry if I'm getting really passionate about this, but
no, thanks,
I
Laura.
really believe in Nestor. Thanks. We'd like to move on to any community questions that we have from out there.
Well, I saw one here from an anonymous attending that says, it seems like the PAC is working against re-electing Governor Lulian Guerrero. That is not our intention. This PAC is about, again, this upcoming election, looking at the legislative candidates, understanding their views on supporting these initiatives that are important to us and supporting those candidates that we believe are going to help us to make the most impactful change to rebuilding our economy. Although the business community may not always agree with the governor, we understand that she, is making a very tough decision and she's prioritized the health. But what is our legislature doing for our community to help us be ready to rebuild and recover? And so really the focus right now is on the upcoming November election and again with the legislative candidates that are up for the position.
Yeah, Christine, I'd like to add to your response to that question regarding, looks like we're going after the governor. I want again to reemphasize, this is not a us versus them situation. It's not. It is a we situation. We need to work together with our elected officials, with the governor. We need to find a way to get this community back on its feet. So it's not like we're going after somebody for their actions. I would tell you right now, I respect the governor. I wouldn't want to be in her shoes right now. The decisions that she has to make. It's a very, very tough situation to be in. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So it's not a situation, but what we're looking for is to set up the proper structure moving forward. Okay, we're not looking at what's happening in the past. We want to look forward. This PAC is to move forward and to try to work together again. Work together. The key word is together. Collaborate together, to have transparency, and find a way to move forward to get Guam back on its feet again. It's not just to get the business community back on its feet, but to get the entire community back on its feet. It's everybody's impacted, and then we're talking about the people, the businesses, everyone. So we need to find a way to work together. It's not us versus them, it's we. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I don't see any other questions in the community, but we encourage any other questions, please send us an email. It's at this pivotal time for our island that we really, really need to do our part to ensure that our businesses not only recover, but that we can survive and that our island community, our residents can also recover and survive. Our island community, they've been suffering. The businesses are suffering. And for the sake of our local community, for those who work in the industries and rely on them for their livelihood, we all need to do our part. So I ask you now to please join us, please help us. And I'll go over how you can get a hold of us, but I want to make one thing. I also want to recognize, I called Holly Rustig, the president, but she is the chair of the Guam Women's Chamber, and I thank you. And Eileen, can you help me, Christine, with her last name? Is the president. So I wanted to clarify. And then please contact us. Our email address is takeactionguam@gmail.com. Visit our website, Action PAC Inc. Guam, and on Facebook, sign up to be a member, or our Twitter and Instagram, Action PAC Guam, @Action PAC Guam. I thank you all for attending and for your questions posed. We look forward to an exciting and positive change for Guam. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Laura, I didn't want to butcher Eileen's last name. It's Senza from the Guamans Chamber. I'm sorry, Eileen. I owe you lunch. I probably butchered your name, but we do want to recognize their participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.